A History of Southern Missouri and Northern Arkansas by William Monks, published in 1907. The KUKLUX, number 53. The lawless bands that had been roving through the counties of Howell, Oregon, Shannon, and Dent had been captured, killed, or driven out of these counties by the officers of the law, aided by the militia forces of the state. All classes of persons and men of every political faith were secure in their person and property. The civil law was enforced to the letter, and the people generally looked to the bright future of Missouri. In the fall of 1868, in the month of September, during a political campaign that was being made in Howell County, while a political speaking was going on at Black Store in Benton Township in the southwest part of the county, a courier came with a dispatch stating that Captain Simpson Mason, registering officer of Fulton County, Arkansas, had been shot and killed from ambush near the state line adjoining Howell County by men who styled themselves Ku Klux and had ordered all Union men, and especially the officers of the law, to keep inside of their doors and to tender their resignations as such officers, or they would fare the same as Mason had. It was stated that the law-abiding citizens were without arms, and that the Ku Klux were raiding the whole country. The whole country was being terrorized by said men, and in God's name asked us to come and bring men in arms to aid the civil officers to enforce the law. The writer advised the people to be cool, that if there was an organization in the state of Arkansas to overturn the state government and the loyal people of said state were helpless, since the rebels at the commencement of the Civil War had had no regard for state lines, I thought that we would have the same right to go down and help our loyal brethren to enforce the civil law. A committee of 12 men was selected to say what action we would take. Among the committee were Benjamin Ossup, Reverend Adam Wright, Reverend John Collins, David Nicholas. Old men were placed on the committee. The committee retired to deliberate upon the matter, and in a short time returned and made the following report: that we, the loyal people of Howell County, go at once with all available men and arms. The writer had in his possession at that time 100 Springfield rifles, with 1,000 rounds of cartridges for each gun. During that night and the next day, about 75 men were organized into a temporary company and were placed under the command of Uncle Benjamin Alsop. On the night following, we made a forced march, reaching the Widow Pickram's farm, situated on Bennett's River in Fulton County, Arkansas, the next morning. We found Captain Richardson with one company of state guards fortified in a barn. On our arrival, we offered our services to Captain Richardson, which were readily accepted. They were looking for an attack to be made by the Ku Klux at any moment, as Colonel Tracy was said to be at Jackson Port with 350 well-armed Ku Klux. While waiting for further orders from Governor Clayton, a vigorous search was commenced for the murderers of Captain Mason. We soon learned that on the day previous to the murder of Mason, he was registering the voters on the Big North Fork at what was known as the Calhoun Mill, and on the next day he was to meet the people at the harbor precinct for registration. And on the previous night the Ku Klux, according to a general move that was to be made throughout the state, met at Colonel Tracy's at the Widow Pickram farm. Among them were Colonel Tracy, Dow Bryant, U.R. Bush, and about 40 others. They selected about 20 men to do the shooting and divided them into 3 bunches and erected 3 blinds, as they did not know which road Captain Mason might travel. They placed about 7 well-armed men in each blind, who had been sworn by the Ku Klux, and after they had been placed in their blinds, one of the men who did the shooting said, "Let him come. I am sure to get him, for I can hit an old gobbler's neck that distance." The blind was erected where the road made a short curve with very thick brush on the left side of the road. When Captain Mason and posse had approached within about 30 yards of the blind, they fired a volley, 5 of the shots taking effect in Mason's body. Captain Mason fell from his horse and expired in a few moments. The assassins fled through a thick bottom grove. Bryant, Bush, and 2 or 3 others were arrested, charged with being a part of the men who did the shooting. They were arrested by the state guards, as the civil officers were afraid to issue a single warrant on account of the threats of the Ku Klux. On an investigation, it was proven that Tracy, Bryant, Bush, and about 40 others were present the night before Mason's murder, and that Bush was the man who remarked after he had gone into the blind, "Let him come, I can get him. I can hit an old gobbler's neck that far." In the meantime, the governor had gotten a dispatch through to Captain Richardson that the Ku Klux in large numbers were organizing and threatening to attack the state officers, that he and the state officers were barricaded in the state house, and that he was organizing the state guards as fast as possible. Captain Richardson was ordered to recruit every available man and protect the civil officers as far as possible, that he had made arrangements to send arms and ammunition up White River on a boat. I suggested to Benjamin Alsop and others who had come down from Missouri that the only way we could make our acts legal would be to join the state guards and be mustered into the state service, to which proposition my old friend Alsop objected and remarked, "That's the way with monks. He is afraid he will hurt some rebel contrary to law. Now, by the living, I came down here to hang some of these old rebels and murderers to the first limb we come to, and if we have to join the state guards and wait on the civil and military law to punish them, they never will be punished. I am going back to Missouri." About 2/3 of the men who came down enlisted in the state service. Alsop and others returned to Missouri. As soon as Governor Clayton learned that the writer had come into the state with men and arms, he sent another dispatch stating that he and all the law-abiding people of the state would ever be grateful to him for furnishing men and arms at a time when they were entirely helpless and at the mercy of a secret and bloodthirsty enemy, bent on overthrowing the state government. And if I would remain in the state with my men and arms, he would make me lieutenant colonel of the 7th Regiment of State Guards. We were watching the movements of the Ku Klux, and in about 8 or 10 days after the murder of Captain Mason, late one evening, the deputy sheriff of the county came to headquarters and informed Captain Richardson that there were 350 Ku Klux, well armed, in a camp at Salem, the county seat of Fulton County, and intended to attack Captain Richardson before day the next morning. They had ordered him, the deputy sheriff, under penalty of death, to bring Bush and turn him over to them. A brief consultation was held by the officers, and being satisfied that they were not able to meet the force of Ku Klux in marching upon them, it was agreed that the riders should take the men from Missouri and recruit men for the service and get all the arms and ammunition that were left at home and return with all possible speed. In the meantime, they would retreat to some secluded place and watch the movements of the Ku Klux. They turned Bush over to the deputy sheriff, and he started in the direction of Salem, and Captain Richardson broke camp and retreated. The deputy sheriff had not traveled more than 2 miles when a posse of armed men met him and demanded Bush, and he, supposing they were a part of the Ku Klux command, turned him over. They took him about 200 yards and shot him to death. The next morning, before daylight, Colonel Tracy charged upon the late camp of Captain Richardson, but found it had been vacated. The Ku Klux began a regular, organized system of raiding the Union men's houses, especially the officers of the civil law, posting written notices, ordering their resignations at once, and if they attempted the arrest of any Ku Klux, death would be the penalty. They posted a picture of a coffin with the notice, at the same time ordering all influential Union men to leave the state at once under the penalty of death. In about 2 weeks, the governor ordered a part of the 7th Regiment of State Guards to Fulton County to be stationed on Bennett's River and to complete the organization of the regiment with all possible speed. Colonel Dale was placed in command. After my return home, I organized 3 companies, commanded by Captain F.M. Monks, Captain Nicholas, and Captain Rice. About 3 days after the regiment reached Fulton County, the writer rejoined his regiment with 3 companies, 100 Springfield rifles, and 1,000 rounds of cartridges for each gun, and soon completed the organization of the regiment. He was commissioned lieutenant colonel of the regiment. The governor had sent arms and ammunition up White River, but the Ku Klux captured and sunk the boat with all the arms and ammunition. The governor said that my arrival saved the north part of the state from the control of the Ku Klux, as he would not have been able to procure arms for months. The regiment began an active campaign at once, by which they came into possession of the intentions, aims, secrets, and oaths of the order. Found that the order extended up into Missouri along the state line. It was a complete military organization. The intention was to overturn the state government by intimidating the civil officers of the state, and with this purpose in view, they procured a human skull and 2 thigh bones, and while the members was looking on these bones, the following oath was administered by the Grand Cyclops. We, or I, as the case might be, do solemnly swear before Almighty God and these witnesses, and looking upon these human bones, that I will obey and carry into effect every order made by any Cyclops or assistant Cyclops, and if I fail to strictly conform and execute every order made as above required of me, unless I am prevented from some cause which shall be no fault of mine, or if I shall give any information to any person or persons except members of this order, that the doom of all traitors shall be meted out to me, and that my bones may become as naked and dry as the bones I am looking upon. And I take this oath voluntarily, without any mental reservation or evasion whatever, for the causes set out in said order, so help me God. After the oath had been taken, the persons taking said oath were ready for duty. The intentions and aims of this organization were to intimidate the civil officers, and, if necessary, to the accomplishment of their aims, to kill and murder all officers of the state by assassination, or drive them from the state. All civil officers of the state were at once notified to tender their resignations, and to cease to discharge their official duties as peace officers. And if they failed to comply with said order, death would be the penalty. The governor and all the state officers received the same order. All Union men that were influential in the state were ordered to keep themselves indoors, or be driven from the state, or be murdered by assassination. The following words, with pictures of coffins, were attached to said notices. If you fail to comply with this notice, this coffin will be your final resting place. The Ku Klux organization, having but one object and aim, to turn the state government over to the control of the late rebels, or Democratic Party of the state, was a complete secret military organization with the most desperate means, to wit, murder, by assassination, whatever ordered by a Cyclops or assistant Cyclops. A Grand Cyclops took the place of a colonel, an assistant Cyclops, lieutenant colonel. In order for one of these officers to shoot any man was final, from which there was no appeal, and men were selected to execute said order by the most desperate oath known to man or history. This kind of warfare being inaugurated throughout the whole state, with a thorough understanding that their organization would revolt against the civil authorities of the state government, and had the day set throughout the whole state.